Poverty is one of the things that cause such pain and agony and suffering for him. Poverty is bad. I'm convinced of it. Nobody can tell me that poverty is in any way good. It is not good for even one person here. Because there are some people that say, well, it's good for some people, brother. No, it's not good for anybody.
Be glorified. 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 Be glorified in the heavens. Be glorified in the earth. Be glorified in this temple. Jesus, Jesus, be thou glorified. Oh Jesus, 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 be thou glorified. Worship the Lord. Worship the Lord. Worship the Lord. Let's worship the Lord again. Worship the Lord. Worship the Lord. Worship Him. Worship Him. Worship the Lord. Worship the Lord. Worship the Lord in the heavens. Worship the Lord in the earth. Worship the Lord in this temple. Jesus, oh Jesus, be thou glorified.
When he was in this world, he was not poor. Some people are mistaken when they say that when Jesus came into this world itself, he became poor. No, he was not poor. How can you call a man who fed 5,000 people with 12 baskets left over poor? No. A man who did so many miracles and met people's needs and healed people, delivered, he can't be poor. He had a treasure with a money box, not with a wallet. A guy carrying, and he was tempted to put his hand in it. That's what the Bible says. That kind of a treasurer. If he was a poor preacher and had nothing, nobody will be tempted to put their hand in it. So think about these things. Jesus literally became poor on the cross of Calvary. Now, by becoming poor, he shows that he has taken our poverty. When he took on hunger, thirst, nakedness, and the need of everything, and became like that on the cross, hung there. He took our poverty. He was rich, but he became poor for our sakes. Why? So that we might be rich. You can state it like this in a powerful way. Jesus not only endured poverty on the cross, but he exhausted poverty. I say exhausted because after he got through carrying hunger, thirst, nakedness, and the need of everything, there was nothing more to carry about poverty. Poverty is absolutely carried away from us and was placed upon him. There was nothing left out. It's not like he took 90% and we have to carry 10%. He took everything about poverty, completely, he took it upon himself. Now, many years ago, I became very convinced about this. As I was taught by some people that this is the truth, I began to see. See, like I said, I'm raised in a Christian background, generally with the impression that if you're a Christian, you should have nothing, that you should be poor. Poor is virtuous. It's good for you. You'll be holy. You'll be fit for heaven, and so on. I believed all that. But then, when I was taught it, I did not simply receive it. I went through the Bible, I checked it, I saw that this is the truth. What an eye-opener it was, and how it has helped me in my life. I began to live it. I began to believe it. I'm so full of it. I believe it with all my heart, and I speak it. And it has changed my life and my ministry in every way. I totally believe it now, that Jesus has completely taken my poverty. And that tells me that poverty is bad. That is why he took it away from me. Poverty is what sin and the resulting poverty and all the curses and everything, that is what caused so much agony and suffering for Jesus on the cross of Calvary. Why did he die such a horrible death? Why did he have to shed the last drop of his blood and suffer like that on the cross of Calvary? Because poverty is one of the things that cause such pain and agony and suffering for him. Poverty is bad. I'm convinced of it. Nobody can tell me that poverty is in any way good. It is not good for even one person here. Because there are some people that say, well, it's good for some people, brother. No, it's not good for anybody. It is not good for anybody. You always notice those who oppose poverty always are prosperous. They already have it all made. They're getting their pension coming for them and their wife. They're comfortably settled. They're enjoying life. And they don't care about all this preaching about prosperity and poverty and all of that, because they don't want anything from it. Whether they believe in poverty or prosperity doesn't matter to them, because the government sends them pension, One fellow was like that talking to me. I said, look, you're all settled and you're depending on the government, but I'm talking to people who are struggling, who have no other way. I'm telling them that poverty is bad and prosperity is good. And Jesus took the poverty, which is bad, and gave us the good, that is prosperity. He took everything that is bad from me upon himself and gave everything that is good from himself onto me. And of that, forgiveness of sin, righteousness, healing, abundant life, and even prosperity is part of that. Now, I've believed it for a long time. Like I said, it made a big difference in my life. It changed me, the way I thought about things. Christians need mind changed, renewal of the mind, the Bible calls it. That is why preaching is necessary. Why preaching is necessary? Because preaching changes the way we think. And when the way we think is changed, then the way we live is changed. As long as you don't change a person's mind and his thoughts, you're never going to change his life. You can take him and dip him in baptism, dip him upside down and, baptize him here and baptize him in every church, Nothing is going to happen. Just by going into water and coming, just by going into church and coming out also, nothing is going to happen. Millions and millions of people all over the world go into the church and come out of the church. And out of them, how many have experienced any change by going in and coming in? Just by going through the motion of going into the church and coming out, nothing happens. Going through the motion of baptism and all, nothing happens. Unless something happens in your heart where you're born again, and something happens in your mind where your mind is renewed by the Word of God, and your thoughts are changed so that you begin to think differently, so that you live differently. That is why preaching is important. Now, back in the old days when I was growing up, we thought we could solve all people's problems by just putting our hands on them, So we put our hands on everybody. We wanted to help them, say, all right, come here, This great preacher has come, he'll put his hand on everybody and solve everybody's problem. I had so many hands laid on me. Then I went and I met some of these people that taught me these truths. And that grand old man used to say, what's the use of putting empty hands on empty heads? Then only the light dawned on me. I said, yeah, my head is empty for sure. I don't know about the preacher's hand. Even if his hand is powerful, my head being empty is not going to change anything. Because after he lays his hands also, my head is going to be empty. I'm not going to be changed. So, empty hand on empty head is not going to work. So, if something has to go inside the head and the mind, the thinking has to change, then the Christian preaching is the only way that it can change. And I tell you, renewing of the mind is the essence of Christian life. That is why Paul says, don't be conformed to the world, but be transformed. Transformed. Christian life is a transformation. Not conforming to others. Not just trying to look like others. Everybody that comes to church, trying to look like Christian, Back in those days, we used to have Pentecostal haircuts, crew cut. No. Mind has to be changed. It's not about looking like others. It is like thinking with the mind of Christ. Let this mind be in you which was in Christ. That kind of thinking, mentality must change. Now I tell you, I've preached this in so many ways. Today I'm preaching it yet in another way. Every time I preach it, it comes out still more differently. But I've preached it up for such a long time, and I'll tell you, hundreds and hundreds of people are here, right here in this church, whose lives have been transformed when they grasped this truth that poverty is bad, evil, destroying me, and that Jesus on the cross took my poverty and not only just endured it, but exhausted it. There is nothing more to carry. He has completely carried away my poverty, that I am indeed set free. When people believe it, something happens. See, Christians are not bound in any other way except in the mind, In the mind, there is a bondage. They think in a certain way. That is the bondage, you see. I've told the story many times about the dog that was tied to a pole for many years, And it could travel only 10 feet from the pole, 10 feet radius. Got used to it, then finally they took the rope off its neck, and the dog was still going only 10 feet. Because as far as he knows, if you go beyond 10 feet, the neck will hurt, He has learned it, memorized 10 feet. Now he doesn't need a rope to guide him. He thinks 10 feet. 10 feet thinking. So he goes 10 feet, comes back. Neck is, the rope is not there. I think many Christians are like that. They still think, I'm poor. Why you're poor? They say, I'm born in a poor country. Why you're poor? Because my granddaddy was poor. Why you're poor? Because we are from a poor village, brother. One preacher said to me, in our village, everybody is poor, so I'm poor. I went to the same village. You won't believe me. I went to the same village. and I preached there. One person came and put a big goat in my car. Another person came, gave some chicken. Another person came, brought some rice. Pretty soon my trunk was full. Where am I going to eat all this, I said, I thought you said you were poor. Because everybody was poor. They have all the goat, the chicken, the rice, the eggs, everything. If you open the rice, there's eggs inside. They believe such things. It's just, they're used to that, Say, well, everybody's poor, so I'm poor. Everybody doesn't have anything, so I don't have anything. So as long as you think like that, you'll be poor only, And they also believe that poor is a very chosen call of God, that we are so blessed by being poor and that God really is favoring them, But when people hear this, something happens in their mind. Light begins to dawn, people are set free, the chains are loosened, they begin to think, Jesus carried it because it's so bad, it destroys me in every way, destroys my family, destroys my whole existence on this earth, makes me totally ineffective and useless. I must be fruitful for God, I must live for God. So this is bad. They come to a conclusion, light begins to dawn. I'll tell you, they will become a different kind of people. And we have hundreds of people like that right here in this church. All right. Now let's go on. So Jesus, when the Bible defines what curse is, it's those 4 things. And we showed that Jesus carried that curse on the cross of Calvary and totally exhausted it. But now, on what level does God want us to live in this world? How does God want us to live? How should we be? Should we be poor? Or should we be medium something, Some people preach the medium, in all kinds of philosophies. But what does the Bible teach? There are 4 levels, if you want to look at it like that. 4 levels of provision. 4 levels, not provision of God, but 4 levels in which you can live. The first one I will call the not enough level. And I think we all know it. We've all been there. I've been in the not enough level. Not enough. Not enough. You need 100 and you have only 25, 30. Not enough. Very bad. With that 25, 30, you cannot do anything. You need 100, but you have only 25% of it or 30% of it. You can't do anything. Not enough level. When the people of Israel were in bondage to Egypt, as slaves, they were on that kind of level. Never had enough. Never had sufficiency. Not enough. Lack and want in every area of their lives. And not enough life. But you'll be surprised. When God delivered them with a mighty hand, look at the miracles. I mean, you won't read about miracles like that in all of the Bible anywhere else. Amazing miracles God did. 10 plagues God sent. Just snatched them out of the hands of Pharaoh. Drowned the Egyptian army in the sea. Delivered them with a mighty hand, and wants to take them to the promised land flowing with milk and honey. And on the way in the wilderness, they are complaining and saying, we want to go back to that wonderful state that we were in before. Amazing to me. So that tells me that in the not enough life, you have to be very careful because you can get very settled there. People can get very settled, I heard about a man who's been in jail for many years in America. And when they let him out, he said, please don't let me out. I don't know what to do out there. He got very settled. He's working inside the jail. He's happily having friends inside the jail. His whole life he spent in jail. Now they're going to let him out. He got very worried. What am I going to do? Out there, I don't know anybody. I got to learn everything. I've not been in the world for so long. You get so used to something that mentally you get settled in that kind of a life. So that is why it is possible that even though people are saved, people know God, their sins are forgiven, when it comes to prosperity, they never move out of that not enough level. They live in that not enough level and actually choose to live in that level because they feel comfortable there many times. Got to watch out. You should never settle down in the not enough level. You must always make sure that you march towards that promised land, into the land in which you appropriate every promise, every blessing of God. Then there is the next level, which is called the just enough level. I'm sure you've been there also. The just enough level. The just enough level, for some people, that's a very spiritual level. So for many years, they told me, you must have just enough, no more than what is needed. You must not have 1 cent more than what you needed. And I believed that for quite a long, I wasted so many years just believing all this stuff, you know. You must not have anything more than just enough. And those people will always refer to the wilderness. Every day manna will come, daily manna. And you pick up the manna, and you pick up only for that day. You cannot store for the next day. That's a condition that God laid on them. If they picked up for the second day, it will become rotten. So daily supply, daily manna. So there's a lot of daily manna Christians. So they think something miracle will happen every day where God will provide us the daily manna. They like the idea of daily manna. God somehow daily provides. Now I've been there. Believe me, I've experienced God's wonderful miracles of provision when I was in need. Daily God graciously took care of my needs. In the beginning stages of my life as a student, I was very much in need. I could not even work in that country at that time. And I was very much in need. And God amazingly met my needs every day. Something will happen. Very often something will happen. You know, miracle after miracle. I told you one time how I had only 2 quarters, 2 25-cent coins in my pocket, and I traveled with the guy for 1,500 miles in his car with just 2 quarters. I'll always have my hands in the pocket just to check to see if the 2 quarters are there, you know, because that's all I had, you know. And I'm going with this guy, don't know where I'm going, you know, in the first year of my stay there. And by the time I came back, I had enough to pay my fees. I had money to spare after that and go out and eat in an Indian restaurant, some curry, you know. That was big blessing. Miracles. Those days I used to read a book by Oral Roberts, Daily Miracles. I loved it because every day I needed miracles. I thought this is the way to live. Every day miracles must happen. Well, even today, God is a miracle working God. I'm sure that many times God comes through in our lives, does miracles. But miracle is the thing that was happening in the wilderness. Every day a miracle was happening. Every day manna came from heaven. Is that not a miracle? Every day, miraculous provision of manna. But that was not God's will. God's will is the promised land. God's will is not daily bread. God's will is promised land. God's will is bonds that will be plenty and vats that shall overflow. Where did he get the idea of bonds? You know, some people developed this idea of daily manna to such an extent they even forbade savings account, you know, on the basis of daily manna. But God says, I want to take you to the promised land where your barns shall be filled with plenty, your vats shall overflow. So it's very easy to get sidetracked and settle down in the wilderness. Just think of the people of Israel. Only 11 days they were scheduled to go through that. And in 11 days they're supposed to learn some faith lessons that God is the provider. You know how long they stayed? 40 years they stayed there. Very easy to get settled in the just enough life. Don't settle down in the just enough life. A lot of Christians are in just enough life and they think they're doing wonderful. God is doing great miracles. I was one time thinking, God, what happened? All those wonderful miracles are not happening now. God said, are you want to get back to the 50-cent level again? Then I'll do the miracles. That time you needed the miracles because you had only 50 cents. Now you're not in that level. You don't need miracles. You are on a different level. See, miracles are fine, but blessings are greater than miracles. Do you want to live by miracles or do you want to live by blessings?
Celebrate, Jesus, celebrate. Celebrate, Jesus, celebrate. Celebrate, Jesus, celebrate. Celebrate, Jesus, celebrate. He is risen. He is risen, and he lives forevermore. He is risen. He is risen. Come on, celebrate the resurrection of our Lord. Celebrate, Jesus, celebrate. Everybody, celebrate, Jesus, celebrate. Celebrate, Jesus, celebrate. Celebrate, Jesus, celebrate. He is risen. He is risen, and he lives forevermore. He is risen. He is risen. Come on, celebrate the resurrection of our Lord. Celebrate, Jesus, celebrate. Celebrate, Jesus, celebrate. Celebrate, Jesus, celebrate. Celebrate, Jesus, celebrate. He is risen. He is risen. He is risen, and he lives forevermore. He is risen. He is risen. Come on, celebrate the resurrection. Oh, everybody, let's celebrate. He is risen. He is risen, and he lives forevermore. He is risen. He is risen. Come on, celebrate. Come on and celebrate. Come on and celebrate. Come on and celebrate. One more time. Come on and celebrate the resurrection of our